Peter's senses were all over the place. The pain had gotten the best of him, and he was willing to do anything to get rid of that hunger. As Fex saw the ghoul leap out from the forest, he prepared himself by getting into a fighting stance. Then, at the right moment, Fex lifted his head off the ground and swung it outward like a whip, hitting Peter right in the center of his body. However, nearly instantly, Peter was standing up once again. A few of his ribs had been broken in the process, but they regenerated almost instantly. Is he starving? Now, who would be stupid enough to turn someone and not have everything prepared beforehand? Fex thought, not knowing how Peter came to be a ghoul. The more times it would heal itself, the more energy it would use. It was starving itself more each time it healed, and eventually there wouldn't be any energy left, and healing would come to an end. Peter came rushing forward once again, but Fex didn't look too worried. I'm not into killing other people's family members. If I did, then it could start a civil war, and I don't want to be the one to blame for that. He ran towards Peter, and just when Peter was about to swing for his head, Fex ducked at the right moment. He dashed forward, not touching Peter, but swiping his hands around him in the process. This continued onward for a while. Peter would strike while Fex would dodge, staying close to him, moving his hands but not touching. Peter had fallen to the ground and was now completely tangled and tied up in some type of string. It's a shame. If you worked for me, I could turn you into a really good puppet. You're quite strong for a ghoul. It took more strength than I thought to slow you down. He then lifted Peter's head off the ground and looked into his eyes, casting some type of spell. Suppress the hunger within yourself. Calm down. After saying those words, Peter felt something inside his body change. The hunger suddenly didn't feel as bad as before, and he was slowly starting to get a hold of himself a bit more. I didn't create you, so the spell won't last for long, Fex explained. Now tell me, which family do you belong to? What do you mean, my family? Peter finally answered. They have nothing to do with this. They're just normal shopkeepers. Keep them out of this. Hearing Peter's words, Fex felt like something wasn't quite right about this whole thing. However, he didn't have long to think about it. When suddenly out from the side, a big line of red blood was shot out, but what was most surprising to Fex was the fact that he recognized the attack. It was a blood attack that only other vampires could use. As Peter looked up, he didn't even recognize the figure standing in front of him. But of course, it was Quinn in his new suit. While moving closer to the mysterious figure, Fex made sure not to make any sudden movements. Hey, I know you might just be trying to save this. Fex then looked at Peter, who was lying on the floor between them. Human, I guess. But I think you don't understand. I've tied him up for your and everybody else's safety. As he got closer, Fex started to notice something. Or rather, the absence of something. Where's his scent? I'm not smelling anything from him, he thought. Quinn, on the other hand, had no clue of his suit's side effects. His number one priority was getting Peter out of the situation and back to their dorm room. Inspect. Name, Fex Sanguinus. Race, vampire. After seeing the information, Quinn froze for a bit. He had to reread it twice just to make sure what he saw was correct. Then, a horrible thought ran through his mind. He remembered what the blonde vampire in the system had told him. Now that he was a vampire, they would come after him and be careful of them. It was too soon. Quinn didn't even know how strong he was compared to other vampires. But when Quinn tried to run away, something inside of him gave him a jolt. A force was pulling him towards Peter and refusing to let him leave. Quinn then fell on one knee, breathing heavily. What is this? Quinn asked. It's your family bond, the system explained. Similar to how Peter can never harm you as his master, you can never desert him. Skill Shadow Cloak activated. Right in front of Fex's eyes, his opponent had disappeared, and without giving off any smell, it was hard for him to locate this person. Wait! You're a vampire! We're on the same side! Stop! Fex shouted. Daze. Daze skill faded. After seeing Quinn struggling in hand-to-hand combat, Fex found everything quite strange. Does he not even know the basic martial arts? It was something all vampires were required to learn, but Quinn was throwing his punches out quite randomly. But then he also knew some advanced skills, such as the flash step. Just get out of here, Peter shouted. Leave me, there's no point in both of us dying. Once again, Fex was confused, but this time by the ghoul. If they belonged to the same family, the blood bond wouldn't allow one to be deserted in time of need. With nothing working, Quinn only had one choice. he threw out a blood swipe and caught it using his shadow control. With the scythe being held in his hands and his suit of armor and mask on, he truly looked like a Grim Reaper. "Is that the shadow ability? But that's been lost for years," Fex said. "Just who is this guy?" Suddenly, a beep was heard coming from all three of their watches. As they looked down, they noticed the time was 9:45. It was the 15-minute warning sound telling them curfew time was coming. Running as fast as he could, Vorden desperately tried to catch up with Quinn, who was running in front. When he looked at the watch, the time stated that it was 9:45. This meant that they only had 15 minutes before curfew time. But for Quinn and Vorden, who were already suspected of perpetrating a murder, it would look suspicious if the two of them were out a night after curfew and didn't have a good reason for it. Knowing this, Vorden had no choice but to turn around and head back to the dorms. Seeing the message on the watch, Quinn started to panic. He didn't have time to rescue Peter. Once again, when Quinn tried to move, he was stopped by the bond. He tried to force through, but it was pulling him down to the ground. Fex could see something was up. Fex looked at Peter and had a little hunch on what the latter was thinking, but it wasn't something he could confirm right now. "Look, you aren't meant to be here, neither am I, so I won't tell anyone about you. I'll leave it in your hands, but if you need any help, then I suggest that you come to me." Soon after, a cloud of mist filled the air where Fex was once standing. After the mist started to disappear, it looked like Fex was vanishing away with it. "Is he gone?" Quinn asked. "That mist is a transformation spell," the system explained. "Most likely he has turned into something that allows him to pick up more speed." With that knowledge, a weight was lifted from his shoulders. But there was still another problem weighing on his mind, and he was soon reminded of it. Peter started to scream at the top of his lungs. It felt like he was being stabbed repeatedly in his stomach, and as his hunger grew, so did his strength. The tight strings that were once holding him down were starting to snap one by one. "Quinn, quickly, give him some of your blood. It will only be temporary, but it should calm him down as you have more control over him," said the system. Then, using the tip of his tooth, he bit down on his thumb, causing blood to be drawn. He walked closer to Peter, and after just taking a few steps, Peter lifted his head and turned it towards Quinn. Quinn then lifted his hand and started to squeeze the blood from it, allowing it to drip into Peter's mouth. Just like that, in almost an instant, Peter started to calm down. "How long will this last?" Quinn asked. "Long enough," the system replied. Placing Peter on his back and equipping his beast boots, he activated his wind walk. He no longer had any time to take it easy, so he ran as fast as he could back to the school without any intention of slowing down. Vorden had safely made it back into the room on time, and Layla had left long before to go back to her dorm room. In the kitchen, laid out on the table, he had gotten what looked like a meat cleaver. "Okay, Vorden, you can do this." Vorden then placed his arm on the table, laying it flat, while grabbing the meat cleaver with the other. "Here goes nothing." He swung it down, but at the last second, he stopped just inches above his limb. A thud sound was heard in the room, and as Vorden looked up, he could see that Quinn had arrived while bearing Peter on his back. The sound on their watches went off again, indicating that it was now 10 o'clock. A ping would then be sent to the security office, revealing the location of all those who were not located in their rooms at that moment. However, as soon as Peter had entered the room, the smell of fresh human flesh had entered his nose, and he once again succumbed to his crazed self. Quinn quickly held him down using all of his strength, but the struggle was tough. "Now is not the time to be hesitating," Vorden said, but once again as he looked at the meat cleaver and his hand, his heart started beating like crazy. "Ah, you big bastard, let me do it," Rayton said as he took control of the seat. Without hesitation, Rayton swung the meat cleaver down onto his arm. Unlike Vorden, though, he didn't hesitate one bit. "Here you go," Vorden said as he chucked over his arm towards Quinn and Peter. As Vorden's arm was flying through the air, Peter managed to overpower Quinn and push him off. Peter leapt into the air like a dog trying to catch the arm. It would have looked funny if it wasn't so gruesome. "Vorden, are you okay?" Quinn asked, with a worried expression on his face. "Don't worry, I'll be fine," Vorden replied with a little smile. "Guess we needed Plan B more than we thought." Vorden felt a bit strange, seeing Peter eating his arm right in front of him. Instinctively, he grabbed at his arm. He felt the part below his elbow was already starting to grow back. This made him sigh in relief. Luckily, the healing ability he acquired was already starting to work. I hope this is going to be enough for him, because I don't feel like going through this again today, Vorden said. It should be. When he finished eating, he will calm down a bit, Quinn replied. He was just repeating the words of the system right now because he wasn't sure of anything anymore. When Peter finally finished eating the arm, Quinn felt strange energy surging through his body. It felt the same as the first time Peter ate human flesh. Looking at Vorden, Peter noticed his arm was missing. With fear in his voice, he stammered, "Vorden, your arm. I don't know." Peter felt appalled with himself. "This thing?" Vorden said as he lifted his stump. "Don't worry about it. In a few hours, it will have grown back. This was our backup plan in case you lost control before we had found a permanent solution for you. Before coming back to our room, I went down to the canteen and copied the ability of a student who has regenerative power. We didn't expect you to be hungry so soon after you fed on Earl yesterday. Well, I guess we better get started with cleaning this place before anyone finds out what happened here," Quinn said. When Vorden was cleaning the kitchen counter, he said, "Hey Quinn, you fancy a drink?" At the same time, he was squeezing some blood from a towel. Quinn was amazed at how Vorden could still crack a joke in a situation like this, but then again, nothing ever seemed to faze the guy. Since turning into a vampire, Quinn wasn't affected much by the sight of blood anymore. Even Peter eating Vorden's arm didn't bother him much. What surprised him was how well Vorden was handling it. While they were busy cleaning up, Quinn had the chance to ask the system some questions, because right now, he had a lot of them. "Do you know how long Peter will be required to eat human flesh?"
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.